Technology is a complex and volatile industry. That is why it's high time to step up and call bullshit on big tech firms that only spew information that benefits them. This is With Absolute Specificity, the program that's unafraid to shoot from the hip about all things tech and marketing. Get your dose of accurate information with a generous portion of humor right here. Get frank wisdom and plain-spoken facts straight from the source with host Jason A. Wood. You can count on him to bring the harsh yet practical truths to the surface. Get ready for another episode of With Absolute Specificity.
Hey everybody, welcome. It is a kick-ass day today here in sunny Florida. Listen, this is the podcast all about specificity and doing on purpose. And today I've got a killer guest for you guys. This is Jeff Shirley, one of the principals at Brand Positioning Doctors. And if you guys don't know, you should know Brand Positioning Doctors. These guys do some really innovative stuff in the branding space and in the marketing space at large. So, Jeff, welcome aboard, man. I want to start off by telling everybody just some of your creds, man. I mean, the guy started out in marketing at Kraft Foods, you know, that little tiny multi-billion-dollar company, ended up at Coca-Cola for a stint, went out on his own, kicking ass, taking names, signing big clients, and dominating the branding space. Jeff, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you, Jason. Been looking forward to it. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah, us too. And, you know, I'm going to start out by, disclosing a couple of things here. It's not very often we get to do this, but at Specificity, as all you guys know, we're geek marketers, right? We do that kind of shit. But we have had the opportunity to partner with Brand Positioning Doctors, and they've brought a lot of clients to the table for us. And not only were we appreciative of that, not only do we value that relationship, but man, what a hell of a ride and what a learning experience it's been, not just in terms of the core competency of the marketing you guys do. We're going to do a deep dive into that, but also just your business processes, man. You guys are so fucking buttoned up at Brand Positioning Doctors. I always feel humbled. You know, the minute you think your pants are getting big, all I'd have to do is hop on a call with you and LT and DC and some Fortune 500 company. And I just sit there and go, yep, what they said. Yep, what they said. So talk to us about Brand Positioning Doctors, man. Share with the audience what it is you guys do and the uniqueness of Brand Positioning Doctors in the branding space, man.
Okay. So Brand Positioning Doctors, it's three of us, like you mentioned, me, LT, and DC. Larry Taman, Daryl Cobbin. And what we do at the core of what we do is we help brands with their positioning. In other words, what do they mean in the marketplace? What is their brand all about? And we use a process that we learned when DC and LT, when they were at Coke, they learned this process from a gentleman named Jim Emery. And he had an intellectual property where he understands how the mind thinks about brands. And so the mind thinks about brands in four different ways, you know, as a user, in the category you use, as an analogy to the category, or a benefit. And so what we're able to do is to take that intellectual property and help brands communicate along those four axes. And when you do, you're better able to communicate with your consumer emotionally. And we've done it with large clients like Walgreens, some Coke brands, Amazon, Beats, et cetera. We've done smaller clients, like there's a client that was a startup we dealt with called GoPuff. 6 years later, they've gotten over $3.5 billion in funding. So it doesn't matter the size of the business or what the business is. We've also worked with entertainers like Kevin Hart, and we've worked with LL Cool J. Anything that needs a positioning in the marketplace so you can be remembered, we help clients do that. And that's what we're hired for. And one of the great things about our business is 100% of our business comes from referrals. We'll typically get a call from someone who either used us at another company or someone recommended us because they were looking to do brand positioning. So that's what we do.
Yeah, man, that's really interesting. And, you know, in a day and age when, you know, I mean, because the phrase branding, you know, it's got kind of a stigma today because there's so many agencies out there that don't look at branding from a psychological perspective. They look at it from an aesthetic, consistency, message, you know, that real top level shit that doesn't work anymore because due to the high adoption rates in social media, your brand is no longer what you tell the market it is. It's what they tell each other. And by taking the approach you guys do, I'm hearing that what you're really doing is feeding that position into the consumer audience directly. So they're telling each other what that brand is about, which is exactly what you designed from your conference room to begin with.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And building on what you said, like people think it's logos and all this sort of thing. Marketing is the only C-suite position that anybody thinks they can do.
Yeah.
What I mean by that is, I've talked to people that say, well, what did you do before marketing? So, well, I was head of HR and they put me in the CMO role. What? Did you take a class to understand the art and science of marketing? A lot of people don't understand there's an art and science to marketing. And the three of us learned that because we grew up in brand marketing. So we understand that. So if you get thrusted into a senior level role, you got to kind of do some homework to understand how do I connect with consumers? It's just not saying, well, I like red, so let's go with red. No, there's a reason and a methodology and a science behind connecting with consumers from a marketing standpoint. Yeah.
And you guys are so successful at this, and I've been on a call or two where that's been the case. I guess our audience is largely marketing people, right? People that hopefully didn't come from HR, people that are true marketers. And I think one of the helpful things they can garner from you guys and your approach, as I mentioned before, that I know I certainly have, and I'd love for you to share some examples or some anecdotes to this. What do you do to overcome the challenge of somebody that thinks they're a marketer, but they're not, or they know they're not, but they've been thrust into a decision-making position about marketing? How do you guys penetrate that, man? Because that's a tall order right there.
It's a hard penetration. It's hard to penetrate, and we've evolved to our the presentation that we do now. And let me explain. What we do is we start off our presentation with a set of words, and we ask them what brand is associated with those words, and we give them 12 examples. And what happens is most people get 12 out of 12, 11 out of 12. But the question is why? Why were you able to associate Like a Good Neighbor, State Farm? Why were you able to identify with State Farm? Why? We know it happens, but why? And that's when we explain the 4 ways the mind thinks about brands. And that has really help people understand, oh, okay, there is a science behind this. Now they're ready to listen to how do we bring that science out and what they're communicating into that brand. So that changing that up and doing that has been very helpful. But it's still difficult when you have people who don't understand that there's an art and science. They're just like, oh, whatever. Yeah. And sometimes they don't become clients.
And there's another aspect to this that I see. And, I'm going to add this caveat before we get into this and say that I am a firm believer in. I mean, specificity, we have our core competency in technology, whatever we do. You guys, I am a firm believer that there is no such thing as a silver bullet in marketing, because there's not one person you're looking to convert, right? So there's not one human being. So all of it's got to work collaboratively and uniformly to create that marketing paradigm that's conducive to the ultimate goal, which is revenue. But let me ask you this. In a world today where this is one of the downsides I see to digital marketing as a whole, not just specificity, but all of it, is that I think digital marketing has conditioned chief marketing officers and business owners to look at marketing as a short-term input-output game. And while that's an important part of the game, and that's where we live at Specificity, that's just a piece. It's an important piece, but I think it's conditioned marketers to look at marketing strategies. And if they don't see or can't put their hands on that immediate return, or at least intermediate return, they don't see the value in it that they should, wherein what you're doing, it is a long-term play, but it's hell of a huge, powerful play if it's done right. So speak to that, man. What do you see that the cannibalization of the long-term play due to the short-term sightedness of marketers now?
Exactly. So let me back up a little bit. So when I went into digital marketing at Kraft, so I was in brand marketing, I did promotions, And so I went into digital marketing on the e-commerce team. So we're talking right when around it was starting. I just dated myself. In any event, I always become a student of of a venture I'm about to take on. So like if I went into real estate, I want to understand everything about real estate and how to be successful there. Okay, as an example. So when I got there, the first book I read was Permission-Based Marketing by Seth Godin. Most impactful book that I read of all the books I read. And he said a few things in there. He said, one, as we move toward digital marketing, the importance of one-to-one marketing, speaking on what you said. And he said, you got to treat different people differently. And what digital marketing allows you to do is to do that very thing. And that's why when I heard about specificity, I fell in love with you guys because I knew exactly what you could do when Jerry explained it to me. It was like, oh, here it is, right? And so getting clients to understand the lifetime value of a consumer is key. If you can get them to understand that, and let me explain. When I went into the digital group at Kraft, one of the things we had to do was go to the brand marketing team and say, hey, you want to start investing in this, right? And I never forget, there was a study done across 35 brands across the Kraft Foods portfolio. And they found out that the heaviest users of any brand on average bought the brand 4 out of 10 times in a year. So your heaviest users were actually cheating on you, right? Right? So I can't tell you how many brand marketers, and these are intelligent folks from Harvard, Northwestern, et cetera. They said, why do I need to talk to my heavy users? I'm like, did you see the study? We all were sitting in the same room. If your heaviest users is using 4 out of 10 times, you can grow your volume very quickly by getting them to use 1 or 2 more times.
Frequency, yeah.
Right. Trying to find someone new to get into the category. It's less expensive and more impactful. And I was just shocked that getting people to understand the lifetime value of a consumer, that's when you can move into growing share of requirements versus trying to find someone new. Now, if it's a new product, you got to find somebody new. But hell, if you've been around like Kraft cheese for decades, and your heaviest user uses you 4 out of 10 times, let me get him used the 5th or 6th time. And if I can get them all to do it 2 more times, my volume doubles, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It grows by 50%. It grows by 50% if you can get your user to buy it 2 more times over the course of a year.
Yeah, and that's frequency over persuasion. It's so much easier. Yeah. Yes. So how do you guys at brand positioning doctors, when you're approaching a prospective client, right, and you know their marketing mix, you know what they're doing, and you're assessing that. I know that's where you guys start. Okay, what's taking place? What's going on? In other words, what kind of shit show am I walking into, right? Because we all do that as marketers. Like, what kind of clusterfuck am I getting ready to have to fix here? And you're walking into that dynamic, and you get through that assessment phase, and you put together the strategy phase. What are you saying to prospects to fundamentally change their perspective on where to put their ad spend in terms of the long-term play? Because I just feel like there's just too much emphasis, and I'm slitting my own throat here, right? I mean, I just think there's too much emphasis on here and now. And it's like investing in stocks, right? If you're buying a stock because you want it to go up 10% tomorrow and sell it, man, you're not in the right game. I mean, you're just not playing the right game. And I feel like for us at Specificity, the best client results we've ever driven is when we're partnered with a firm like yours or with a marketer that shares your mindset, and you've got both going on. So how are you convincing these people to take their eyes off the short term, at least in part, and pay attention to the overall health and longevity of their brand?
Okay, so that's a great point. One of the things we talk to about client with clients about is this notion of when you create your brand positioning, that in and of itself is long term. You can change the tactics up under it, but you notice Nike hadn't changed Just Do It.
Right.
1987, whenever that came out, right? So their brand positioning it becomes very clear through that tagline, so to speak. So first we say that's long term. The second thing that is counterintuitive, and we end all our workshops with this, and we say, if you don't remember anything, remember this one thing. You must narrow your focus to broaden your appeal. Okay?
Yeah.
Narrow your focus to broaden your appeal. What do you mean? Well, let's go back to Nike. In all of their advertisement, you see elite athletes. Okay? Now, I can't dunk a basketball. I can't hit a 100-mile-an-hour fastball. I can't do none of that. That's what you'll see in a Nike ad, but I still buy Nikes because that's the user that they're focused on. But you draw in your target market by narrowing your focus. And we want to get them to understand that. And then if you do that long term, you can't just do that for a quarter and say, oh, look at what, no, you do it long term. Again, Nike is, we know Nike. So the example we use with Nike is, you know the mall walkers, right? Up north, senior citizens, when it's snowing outside, they open the malls early so they can walk around the mall. Do Nike want them to wear Nikes? Yes. They want the mall walkers, but you ain't gonna see them in an ad.
Right.
LeBron or
a mall walker ad.
You're not gonna see that. But they draw in the mall walkers. So and you have to do that over an extended period of time to have the impact to create and grow your brand and to get it to the stage of what we want to get it to be iconic. Yes.
Yeah, it's like that aspiration and respect element, right? So you can use an elite athlete and get away with it when you're Nike because athletes that aren't elite, they aspire to be an elite athlete. So you're going to capture that audience. People that just get up and they're 70 years old and they go walk the mall, they respect elite athletes. And so therefore want to emulate that. So you're really hitting all tiers without and I think some people would think that would be almost, alienating because you're just focused on an elite athlete, but there's nobody that looks at an elite athlete and goes, I have no respect for that whatsoever.
That's right. And we know it's counterintuitive. That's why we drive it home every time. Another example we use is Wheaties. Okay. Let's say you're a swimmer and you come in 0.0001 seconds behind the first place guy. You ain't going to end up on the Wheaties box. It ain't going to happen. It's a breakfast of champions. So only champions show up on there, not second place. Right.
So silver medals need not apply.
No, it's gold medalists, who won the world championship, etc. So narrow your focus to broaden your appeal and do that over time, over a long period of time, and you will grow your brand, build your brand, and make your brand iconic.
Yeah, and to that point, I'll tell you a really fast, funny story. It's just how I grew up. My mom was no joke, man. I mean, my mom was hard. So I qualified for conference my freshman year, which was a big deal, right, in diving, right? So I was all proud of myself. And I got second place, man. And I'm sitting in the back seat riding home from the meet, and I'm looking at my medal. My dad's driving. My mom turns around and goes, "Hey, honey, I'm really proud of you." And I said, "Thanks, Mom." She goes, "But you do know what second place is, right?" And I'm 13 years old. And I said, "What?" She goes, "The first loser. Let's do better next year." And you talk about motivating, man. Oh, yeah, man. My mom was hard, man.
Oh, man. That's hard. That is hard.
Yeah.
Wow. Love it.
So let me ask you this. Where do you see let's switch gears for a minute in terms of communication channels, right? We've got, all the digital ones, social media, Google, all the YouTube and, display and all that stuff. And then we've got traditional communication channels that are a little less quantifiable because they're a broader sword and to your point, effective greater appeal. Where do you see the majority of success for your clients in terms of communication channel, or is it a split mix? What do you see in work?
That's the easiest question. By far is digital. And I'll share a story, and this story because we were talking to you all about it. Remember, we were interested in buying a brand. Okay. And when we were looking at it, what we realized is when we do our marketing campaign, we could spend it all over in various different ways. But where we landed was for the first year, we weren't going to use nothing but specificity because she's been on shelf for 37 years but no one knew of the brand. So we knew that you all could find users in that category in the stores she was in and let them know it was there so we can create more trial. And we knew we could 10x, 15x, 20x her business, starting with Specificity. I don't know if we'd ever come off of that because I don't know of another vehicle that can do that, right? Yeah, because you are only going to talk to people in her category. No wasted communication. It didn't make sense. And we batted around, well, then wouldn't we want to do this or that or this or that? And I'm like, well, help it make sense to me. Tell me how that makes more sense than only talking to people in her category. And
well, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I'm saying we couldn't do it. So I personally, if you can have a channel, and one of our clients used to say that doesn't make walking around sense. You've got one channel where they're only going to talk to the people who are interested in buying your shit, right? Or two, you're going to pour it into a channel where some people are going to see it and give less than a damn about it. But through that, you're going to find some people that are, I call it raining on Chicago to get one car wet, right? Just because it's so broad, which one would be more effective? And walking around since saying, says that the vehicle where I'm talking to the people who want to buy my product over time with frequency, I will get more of an impact and I will grow my brand, grow my revenue, et cetera. Period. It's not even a contest in my eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think what we get caught up in, or not we, but what companies and marketers get caught up in, we're such a monkey see, monkey do society. It's just at large. Marketing is particularly bad. So something goes trendy and bam, everybody's using it, even though the ROI sucks on it. And to this exact point, what I think happens a lot is you see companies like Clinique, Nike, Microsoft, Apple, deploy these multi-tens of billions of dollars branding campaigns. And what I think people fail to realize is that these companies are so successful and so revenue rich that they have a choice to make. Either put the money into these giant at-large branding strategies or campaigns, not really so concerned about ROI, but they're at least going to get the branding benefit from it, or pay it in federal taxes. And I think companies push a lot of money off their books and just shotgun this marketing because it's better than giving it to Uncle Sam. But if you look at what they're tracking, if you look at analytic reports they share at tech conferences, it's digital, it's targeted audience, it's segmentation, it's data. That Nike is looking at various consumer segments to deploy hyper-relevant ads to the mall walker, to the elite athlete, to the chubby middle-aged guy like me that used to be an athlete, but I still see myself that way. So they know this ad's going to play to me. And I just think people don't realize that these Fortune 1000 companies, at the end of every year, they allocate money the next year that they know they just need to push off of their books or pay it in taxes. And shit, a shotgun branding campaign, while it might not be strategic, it's a hell of a lot more use to the company than paying it in taxes. And I think there's a lot of that. And then other companies see them do that and go, wow, we should do that too. And they're working with $120,000 a year ad budget.
Right. I've never thought of it like that, actually, Jason, but that's a great point. And then you layer on the fact, what we talked about a minute ago, when you get that consumer, then what's the lifetime value of that consumer? So if it took me $10 to get a consumer for my $2 product, but they buy it for the rest of their life, well, that was a good $10 investment.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. Life value of customer loyalty is, it's unquantifiable sometimes. It just matters that much. So where are you guys at right now, man? What are you working on? What's hot with BPD over there?
Oh man. The one of the big things, we work with a lot of large corporations, right? But we have this expertise of being able to identify a brand and that needs marketing and knowing we can take it to significant heights. So what we're working on now is working with smaller businesses that don't have that area of expertise, because as you know, most entrepreneurs, if they make pies, they know how to make pies, but they don't know how to market and grow their business. right? The old E-Myth, E-Myth book, talk about processing. So we're looking for businesses where the gap in their growth is marketing. And then what we'll do is we'll help position them with marketing and then use our vast resources, you all being one of them, to help grow them in the marketplace. So, the meeting we just had yesterday was an example of that. He did $500,000 now, but I promise you, business is about to blow up in large part because you're going to be able to find his consumers, but also we're going to help him with positioning and help him grow his business and build his brand.
Yeah. And, I think so many people in our space, Jeff, get so caught up in their own revenue model that they don't have the ability or the willingness to take a step back and say, you're not ready for me yet. You're not there yet. You've got to come over here into these arenas where, you've got to build. I didn't want to say this to him on that call, but man, you've got to build a better brand, a more palatable brand. And I know that's you guys. And then you have to take that brand and you have to build an online presence with that brand that we can send traffic to. Because if I send traffic, even qualified traffic to what's there now, it's going to struggle. And that's a waste of freaking money. And as you know, the smaller the business, the more recent the startup, the more precious that capital is in terms of marketing. And I think so many digital marketing specifically get so caught up in my immediate revenue retainer, whatever model I have for my business, that I'm going to have this guy spend money because I know I can drive a result. But if I just take a deep breath and advocate and share with them what you're already telling them anyway, I'm sure, right, that you need to build, that you need to lay those bricks for the foundation, and then you buy the steroids. Then you go out and target audiences that, to your point, you could take a $500,000 company to $50 million. But without those bricks, man, I can't do anything.
You can't do anything. And I like the way you said that. You got, especially small businesses, you got to get them to realize you need to slow down to speed up. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Let's take care of this. So we can move forward. So yeah. Just for the audience to know, like we said, we're working together. But since we started our partnership, it's added a layer of confidence to the kind of success we know we can drive. So if we thought we could get to this success in X with you guys, now we think we can get there in half the time, for example, because you're able to find those consumers. So helping small businesses grow is a big thing. Now, we've still got our major clients, et cetera.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the core of what we want to do is that. Yeah.
Yeah, we're working on one of those right now with you. That's going to be, I think, a whale. I think that opportunity is going to be phenomenal for both the client and all of us involved. And,
absolutely,
Jeff, we always appreciate your kind words and appreciate you bringing us in, man. I just, it's humbling. You know what I mean? It just is. So many people that are good in your space or good in my space ignore the other spaces because they over prioritize out of ego or out of maybe just knowledge. And that hurts and harms the client so often. You know what I mean? To not bring the other facets of marketing to the table is not beneficial to the client. And it creates a short-term client anyway, because you can't get to where you want to go. We tell people all the time, we love to race. And everybody thinks the first step in racing is starting the car, but you're wrong. You got to pick the tires first. And then you got to build the car. You got to build the damn car.
Oh, I'm still in that, Jay.
Yeah, I mean, you just have to, though. I mean, it's a functional necessity. I love to go 1,000 miles an hour, but God damn it, I don't want to do it with wheels underneath me that weren't thought through well and have them come off in the middle of the race, man. That's a little dangerous, And we appreciate a partner like you because you guys are just so thoughtful in your approach, man. And let me ask you this: what are you seeing for 2023, man? What's on your horizon coming up? I mean, I know you guys have, and we do too, and I love it, and we have some synergy there. I love big clients and all of that, and that's great. Managing giant campaigns. But man, I have a passion for these companies that have entrepreneurs, solopreneurs that have an idea or something they made, and it's dope, and they just can't figure out how to get it to the masses and get it to the right people. So I love that paradigm. I mean, and this guy we talked to yesterday, I'm with you. I think this could. I mean, I haven't even tasted this thing yet, but you can just hear by the way he talks about it,
right?
And then that woman that's there helping you, she's clearly tasted it. Like this thing's going to be prime. What are you guys focused on for 2023, man? What trends do you think are coming down the pipe here with with the economy and inflation and all these things rearing their ugly head. What do you see?
So there is there's one client we haven't even talked to you about it yet, and this is a true startup. Like we're at zero sales, but this is a person we worked with. DC's known him for over 10 years. He has a product that, again, we fortunately we can look at something and say, hey, we think that's going to be big. And had our first meeting yesterday. So when we get down the road, of course, you're always our first call when it comes to executing marketing. Okay. That's probably the biggest thing we're excited about, because it can go from zero to the moon very quickly once we get in the marketplace. And we're doing it in the right steps. We're going to start with defining the brand. Then we're going to develop the marketing plan to reach consumers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we're doing it methodically and how it should be done. To your point, slow down to speed up. And he's entrusting us with that entire piece. And so, early next year, we will be contacting you about that product. It's pretty exciting.
I love it.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think marketers are guilty of, as us as a profession, is overlooking the business intelligence, the BI that can come out of marketing that can help an entrepreneur or a business looking to get off that next plateau, and being predictive in all areas, operations and acquisition and hiring, and like the ability to be predictive. You can do that stemming from analytics that come out of marketing. And I think that goes undervalued a lot.
It really does. And we had a client that we were working with, and they did this analysis, and we were shocked to find out that her core audience loves amusement parks. Now, her shit wasn't cotton candy or nothing like that. The core audience were families who went to amusement parks. They had all these categories, but amusement parks was significantly higher than any other event a family would do. Who would have thought that? But you got to dive into you don't know what you don't know until you know it, right? And so got to dive, and I love diving into analytics and finding those little things, and then you can really start to accelerate your impact in the marketplace. Yeah, it's funny too, man. I mean, we see it all the time because, of course, we're geeks, and that's where we focus a lot of our time. But we talk to clients in certain spaces, and we just in the first meeting. And I just had a call like this last week with a window company. So it's really high-end windows. And of course, we've got a few clients in that space in various markets. And I said, do you know what the number one driver of purchase is in your space? And they said, sure, it's home ownership. No, it's home equity. It's the percentage of home equity. If you have 26% or higher home equity in your home, you are 71% more likely to buy a window replacement for your house. When you drop below 25, you're 71% less likely to do the deal. And it's because a lot of consumers, they use the equity in their home to finance the project and either pay it out over time or they pay it off when it's done. But they use that capital in their home. And nobody wants to fall below 20% because they don't want to have to pay private mortgage insurance. That's right.
So it's home equity is the number one driver. I wouldn't spend 5 cents of a client's money marketing to a household of a $5 million home if they have 19% equity in their house or 20% equity in their house. I wouldn't do it because I know there's so much less likely. That's just a waste of digital spend. It's shit like that you can share with clients. And like, we didn't know that,
Right. And that's like a huge, significant bonus that you brought to our clients. I mean, time after time again, you get the oh shit moment when they see the data, right? Like, we had one client where if you'd asked them, they would have thought the main people participating would be under 40. We found out it was over 60. Right.
Right.
So
but you got to be careful because statistics never lie. The liars always use statistics.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Jeff, listen, man, thanks a lot thanks a lot for coming on today, man. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We'll continue this partnership. I just can't tell you how much we value you guys. I'm going to have your other partners, DC and LT, on at some point. but I wanted to start with the better looking of the three.
Oh, thank you.
Jeff, it's great to talk to you, man. Oh, absolutely.
Too,
you know, I'm gonna send this to him. I want him to see that we said that. So we appreciate you as always, man, and we'll be in the trenches with you soon, I'm sure.
All right, man. Yep. All right,
brother. Have a good one.
You've just listened to another episode of With Absolute Specificity. Stay updated on big tech with insights from industry thought leaders. What are you waiting for? Catch more episodes by visiting the website at www.specificityinc.com. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on future releases.